Think about it. The Oreo. More than just a cookie, a cultural institution, that perfect twist, that satisfying dunk into milk. First cookie you probably had, the one your parents gave you as a treat, nostalgic Americana in black and white. Oreo built an empire on that feeling. Milk's favorite cookie, global superstar, New York, New Delhi. The branding is genius, family, connection, small sweet moments, a feeling they sell, we buy it, billions of times. But what if I told you the image is built on not-so-sweet secrets? What if the iconic cookie wasn't original? Okay, let's get this out of the way right now. Oreo was not the first chocolate sandwich cookie with a cream filling. I know, it feels like a lie. It feels like someone just told you Santa Claus isn't real and he also steals intellectual property. But the OG, the true original, was a cookie called Hydrox. It was created in 1908 by a company called Sunshine Biscuits. That's 4 years. 4 whole years, before the first Oreo in 1912. Hydrox was the innovator. 2 crunchy chocolate wafers. A sweet, creamy center. They were the pioneers of the dunk. The name Hydrox, not great. It sounds like a cleaning product. Sunshine thought it sounded scientific and pure. Hydrogen. Oxygen. A classic early 20th century marketing move that backfired. People thought it might be some kind of industrial chemical biscuit. That nerdy name would be a fatal flaw against a giant with better marketing. In 1912, the National Biscuit Company, or Nabisco, launched the Oreo. And look, they barely even tried to hide it. It was a chocolate sandwich cookie with a cream filling. The design was slightly different. The recipe was a little tweaked. But the core concept was a direct copy of Hydrox. Nabisco was the bigger company, the corporate behemoth of its day. They had more money, they had more factories, they had a much more powerful distribution network. They saw what Sunshine Biscuits had created. Basically said, that's cute, we'll take it from here. It was the corporate equivalent of seeing someone's test answers and changing a few words. Nabisco's real weapon wasn't its recipe, it was its marketing budget. They poured money into advertising. They branded Oreo as the new, as exciting, as the superior choice. The mystery became part of the marketing genius, and it marked the beginning of the end for the true original. The story of Oreo takes an even darker turn when you look at how it seeped into the American cultural lexicon. Sometime in the late 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement, Black Power movement, the term Oreo was co-opted and turned into a deeply painful racial slur. The metaphor was brutally simple: black on the outside, white on the inside. It was used within the black community to attack and ostracize individuals accused of betraying their race of thinking or acting white, to get ahead in a system dominated by white supremacy. It was a weapon used to question someone's authenticity and loyalty, but the cookie's simple, stark, black and white design made it a perfect, ready-made symbol for America's racial anxieties. It highlights the impossible tightrope they are forced to walk, navigate a white-dominated world to achieve success, but do so without being seen as selling out by their own community. To understand how Oreo could so easily crush Hydrox, you have to understand the company that made it, Nabisco. The National Biscuit Company was formed in 1898 through a massive merger of smaller bakeries. It was, from its very inception, a trust, a corporate behemoth, designed to dominate the market, eliminate competition, and control prices. They were the OGs of corporate consolidation. Their business model was ruthless efficiency and aggressive expansion. They weren't just in the business of baking, they were in the business of building an empire, and they weren't afraid to play dirty. Nabisco was famous for its inner seal packaging. This was a genuine innovation, but they used it as a weapon. They leveraged their superior packaging and distribution to squeeze out local and regional bakeries that couldn't compete. The company's history is also riddled with intense labor disputes. The dark side of Oreo's history isn't just in the past, it extends into the 21st century, into the very ingredients that make up the cookie. The chocolatey wafers of an Oreo get their flavor from cocoa. The global cocoa industry is notoriously plagued by the worst forms of child labor and modern slavery. Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana. For decades, journalists and human rights groups have exposed a horrifying truth. Hundreds of thousands of children are forced to work on cocoa farms. Some children, as young as 5, are trafficked from neighboring countries. They work long hours in hazardous conditions, using sharp machetes to harvest cocoa pods, spraying pesticides without protective gear, carrying heavy loads, denied an education, paid little to nothing, frequently subjected to physical abuse. This isn't kids helping out on the family farm. This is forced labor. This is slavery. Today, Oreo is owned by Mondelez International, a spin-off from Kraft Foods. Mondelez is a global snack food juggernaut with tentacles reaching every corner of the globe. Their strategy for Oreo, relentless global expansion, but this expansion has not been without controversy. In 2016, Mondelez made headlines for shifting Oreo production from a long-standing Chicago factory to a new facility in Mexico. The move resulted in the layoff of 600 American workers. It was a cold, calculated decision to take advantage of cheaper labor. The company said it was necessary to remain competitive. For Chicago workers, it felt like a devastating betrayal. The move sparked boycotts and even became a talking point in the 2016 presidential election. Nabisco playbook: prioritize profits over people. Ultra-processed, high-sugar foods like Oreo are entering vulnerable populations. Rising rates of obesity, rising rates of diabetes, rising rates of other diet-related diseases. The joy of Oreo is contributing to a global public health crisis. While the company's stock soars, the true cost is externalized. It's paid by laid-off workers in Chicago. It's paid by communities in developing nations grappling with new health problems. It's paid by child laborers hidden deep in the cocoa supply chain. You might think the story of Hydrox ended back in the 20th century, buried under an avalanche of Oreo marketing. For a long time, it did. Sunshine Biscuits was acquired by Keebler, which was later acquired by Kellogg's. For years, Kellogg's kept Hydrox on the market, but it was always an afterthought. In 2003, they discontinued it. The original sandwich cookie seemed gone for good. The knockoff had officially won. History is written by the victors. In the cookie wars, the victor was Oreo. The ghost of Hydrox seemed permanently vanquished. But then something amazing happened. The internet. A small but passionate group of Hydrox loyalists never gave up. They flooded Kellogg's with emails and letters begging for a return. Fans argued Hydrox was crunchier, less cloyingly sweet, and had a tangier cream filling than Oreo. In 2008, for Hydrox's 100th, Kellogg's brought it back briefly. The real comeback began in 2015. Leaf Brands bought the dormant Hydrox trademark. So here we are. We've pulled back the curtain on America's favorite cookie. We know it was a copycat. It crushed its competition with sheer marketing muscle. We know its name became a painful racial slur. We know its parent company has a long history of prioritizing profits over people. Shuttering American factories. Alleged connection to child labor in its cocoa supply chains. The sweet, innocent image of the Oreo cookie now seems a lot more complicated. The wholesome nostalgia is tainted. The bitter aftertaste of corporate greed and ethical compromises. What do we do with this information? Do we boycott Oreos? Do we throw out the package in our pantry? For some, the answer might be yes. For them, the ethical lines have been crossed too many times. For these consumers, the only ethical choice is to walk away and maybe, just maybe, buy a pack of Hydrox instead. Oreo is deeply woven into the fabric of our lives and our memories. But it does mean we should be asking more questions. Ultimately, the story of Oreo is not just about a cookie. It's a case study in how power works in our world. It shows how a compelling narrative, backed by enough money, can become the truth. It reveals the hidden costs buried in global supply chains, the human consequences of corporate decisions. It doesn't mean you can never eat an Oreo again. We should demand more transparency. We should demand more accountability from the companies we support with our dollars. The most powerful thing a consumer can do is be informed, because the sweet innocence is gone, and what's left is a choice. Over 40 billion cookies a year. Stack them, they'd circle the earth 5 times. Global phenomenon. Buckle up. Dunk this cookie in uncomfortable truths.